Okay, hey everybody, this is Megan Carney. Before we get started, Jen and Jackson, I'd love to just do a quick audio test with you. Could you both turn your mics on and just say hello so we know that we can hear you?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Jen and Jackson, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
You sound great.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Megan. I'm the one on the other end of all of the email that you've been getting. And I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining us here today to talk about the Sustainability Fellows Program. I want to just talk real briefly about some logistics of the webinar before we get started. Because there are so many people logged on or potentially going to be logged on, I'd like you each to make sure that your mics and your cameras are turned off. I believe for most of you that is already the case, so don't worry too much. But let's just keep them off because it keeps the bandwidth low so everybody can log in. We will have time for questions, and when we do that, I'll let you know that it's time for questions. That will happen at 2 different points, and I'll ask you to use the chat utility, so just take a minute to find where that button is within Zoom. You'll just click on that, and then you can type in your question. It's just the easiest way to take questions when there are a lot of people logged in at the same time. If you do have any technical trouble, you can also send me a chat so we know that you're having trouble. That said, I can't promise you that I will be able to fix it in real time, but if lots of people are having trouble hearing or something like that, I'd really like to know that before we go on for too long like that. So all of that said, I think we can go ahead and get started. So, can everybody see the slides okay, I hope? Please let me know if you can't. So I'm Megan Carney, as I said. I coordinate the Fellows Program here at the Sustainability Institute at UNH, and I've been doing this for about 2 years, but I still often feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants because this program is always different, which is one of the beautiful things about it. It's, you know, new projects and new students every year. So it's always changing, which is great. My background is in environmental science and oceanography. I've also done some teaching and worked in urban planning for a while. So what I love about this program is I get to keep involved in all of those different things at the same time. So what I do is I basically coordinate all things fellow. So I will be the primary point of contact for everything starting from now through the application process all the way through the summer and well beyond once fellows become alumni of the program. All that said, this is my favorite time of year. It's super, super busy, but it's so inspiring to see that there are so many students out there who are really interested in making an impact and changing the world. So thank you for being here and thank you for being interested in doing great things. So I look forward to hearing from many of you over the next hour and also over the next few months. With that, I will turn it over to Jen for the moment and let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks to everybody. I'm going to add my thanks to Megan's to you all for being with us this afternoon and for your interest in being part of the work of sustainability and your interest in making a difference with your study and with your career. I'm a program director at the Sustainability Institute, UNH's Sustainability Institute, and I've been here since 2013. So the Sustainability Fellows Program is one of the programs that I kind of oversee at a high level, though, as Megan said, she's the one who really makes it all work, and we're so also lucky to have her. I also work on other programs, tools for carbon accounting for colleges and universities, and I do a lot of work around UNH's on-campus sustainability initiatives to meet our own kind of sustainability goals and targets. UNH as an institution has been committed to sustainability for a long time. We had one of the first campus sustainability offices in the country, started in around 2000. We're still a real leader in the field. We're one of only 4 campuses in the country that have a a platinum rating in the ASHE Center's platform, which is a sort of sustainability assessment to local colleges and universities. So it's a real priority for the university. Maybe somebody needs to mute their microphone. A little bit of interference. So as I said, this is a high priority for the university. We're committed to making our campus operate sustainably, but also and especially to educate and equip students and young professionals and leaders for the sustainability challenges that we face globally. So this fellows program is a really important part of that. Before coming to UNH, I spent 13 years at a nonprofit, Planet, where our sort of goal was working to cultivate and support climate leadership from colleges and universities across the country and from local governments and businesses across New England. So that's kind of my background. The Sustainability Fellows Program was actually created in 2008 as a climate fellowships program at that nonprofit, Cleaner Cool Planet, that I mentioned. And at the time, we designed it to meet two primary needs that we were seeing in the field as we were working with kind of leading organizations and institutions who are trying to meet the climate challenge and provide leadership. And that was, first of all, that we needed to build a movement and a profession and an industry by engaging potential young new leaders and professionals, and to give them a sort of way into the profession so that we could broaden our impact and strengthen the work. And so that was one thing. There were so many students and young professionals who were really interested in doing this kind of work, and we're trying to figure out the way in. And at the same time, there was way more work, and still is, way more work to be done than we could do. And so the idea was to provide those experiential learning opportunities while advancing sustainability outcomes in local communities. And long-term, the vision was that our fellows and mentors would continue to learn from and support each other moving forward past the summer. So in 2013, we brought this program to the University of New Hampshire and broadened it to a Sustainability Fellows program, where we still do a lot of work on climate, but we also look at food, biodiversity, and culture projects. And there, that sort of third bullet, the network building piece, has become a huge priority and focus and is starting to come to fruition. So we're excited about that. Megan, do you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. So when we started, there weren't so many sort of experiential opportunities out there in the sustainability field. I managed to get one. That's actually how I started working with Cleaner Cool Planet. And when I first started, I was doing sort of general communications work and kind of administration work, which was great. I got to sort of see how things worked in the field, but it wasn't really truly inspiring or engaging until about 2 months in, when I took on a project developing a template for a campus greenhouse gas inventory, which at that point hadn't been done before, and so it didn't exist. We didn't know how to do it. And that was when that internship got really juicy. There was creativity, there was problem solving, I was learning, I was collaborating, so I was hooked. And that experience is what we're trying to give our fellows in this program. It's the ability to engage professionally with sustainability by taking on a very specific challenge, which will be yours. So more than most internships, there's a high level of autonomy and responsibility. We focus on making sure that there are tangible outcomes and that at the end of it, you'll have products to point to. There is, of course, also an element of learning broadly within your sort of placement organization or institution, so that's sort of more general knowledge, and also learning from the other fellows in the cohort who are working in other locations with other organizations about the work that they're doing. So exposing you to a wide range of opportunities and work. In the course of doing this program and in the course of working in this field for the past 20 years, we've developed extensive professional contacts and networks with leaders in the field. And so we strive to make sure that our fellows get mentorship from those leaders, which is a really important piece of the program. I said that the goal is to give you a challenge and something that's yours, but it's not to leave you hanging on your own. It's to get you input and collaboration from people who sort of know generally the state of the field, but then allow you to sort of problem solve within that space with useful input. And in addition to that, it's specialized training and professional development to build kind of general professional skills that we think all sustainability professionals need. So from that experience, next slide, please, Megan. Our goal is to make sure that at the end of the summer, you are coming out of it with feeling like And knowing that actually you have made a difference, you've contributed to something important in a community on the ground, and you're advancing projects and work in the field, that you at the same time have acquired new skills, learned more about the field, the kind of work that you might want to do or might not want to do. I mean, that's sometimes part of the learning process too, and to experience a new community, to build your resume, to build your professional network, which is such an important piece of this, and to, of course, get paid for the work that you're doing. It was important, it's been important to us from the get-go to make sure that this kind of opportunity isn't open only to people who can afford to volunteer their time, but that everybody is sort of getting compensated fairly and can pay their bills and meet their living expenses while they're learning and collaborating in this way. So that's what we are working to make sure you get out of the experience. What that looks like in kind of real time on the ground during the summer is that your primary focus will be on a specific project that you have kind of ownership of in many ways. You're working with a partner organization on site at that partner organization. And at the same time, you are collaborating with all the other fellows who have their own projects, and you're participating in programming that we offer, starting with a 3-day orientation where you meet all the fellows and advisors, weekly calls, meetings, webinars to network and learn, midterm and final poster presentations, and professional development. So these sort of these parallel tracks over the summer. So that gives you, in a very general and broad sense, what the fellowship program is and what it looks like. What does it actually feel like? What is the experience day to day? We're lucky to have here with us to tell us about his experience as a sustainability fellow, Jackson Kinspari, who was a chemical engineering major at the University of New Hampshire, who graduated last spring, 2018. And then he was a 2018 sustainability fellow working in the city of Dover, New Hampshire, to create the first ever combined municipal carbon and nitrogen inventory before he started his PhD in chemistry here last fall. And so as a result of his fellowship, one result of his fellowship is that he's now an alternate member of the Dover Planning Board, which is really awesome. But I think there were a lot of other results as well. So Jackson, thank you for being with us. And I will be quiet and let you talk about it from the most knowledgeable perspective as a recent alum of the program. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you introducing me. And hello, everybody. Thank you all for logging on and for your interest in this program. I'll just start by saying it's an amazing program and you really get so much out of this. But I'm going to break down my fairly brief talk here into 3 sections. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences with Dover, make some comments on the program itself, and then give you some tips in terms of applying for this fellowship, as it is very competitive. So in terms of my work with Dover, I had a really great experience. I had never worked in a local government organization before, so being immersed in a very busy planning office was actually very cool. Seeing kind of the day-to-day operations, even though I was on my own project, it gave me a lot of exposure into how local governments plan for the future. In the case of Dover, I was lucky that they're a very progressive city. Clearly, hosting a fellow to do this project really highlights that, but it was very neat to see how many initiatives and good ideas were coming up into trying to lower the city's impact and improve their sustainability as a whole. So I will comment and say that it is hard work, I'm not gonna lie. The day-to-day task will really vary on your project, but it's extremely, extremely rewarding at the end of the day to see a very tangible and real report that you've come up with, whether it's a report or a poster or a presentation format. You know that you've made a difference and you've been able to share those skills and what you've learned with a broader audience, which is really great and pretty invaluable experience moving forward into either your career or graduate school. I'd say the biggest skill that I really gained through this experience was in terms of my public speaking abilities. So I presented on probably 6 different occasions, at least during the project period, and that just caused an exponential spike into my public speaking confidence. And as a result of that, so I presented to, say, the Dover Energy Commission on a couple occasions, as well as City Council, which was really great. And the city councilors were very open to accepting my recommendations I had for them. And because of that, I think there will be some real tangible actions moving forward. I should also mention that I actually grew up essentially in Dover, so being able to apply the skills I learned through academia to a town that has really meant so much to me throughout my life was, incredibly rewarding. This project has led to some opportunities moving forward, even now as an alumni. So as of late, I presented at a joint New Hampshire engineering conference. As part of Dover's invitation to that conference, they wanted me to share my project with a greater audience. I also actually got invited to present at a New Hampshire Asthma Collaborative quarterly meeting. This woman had seen my article in UNH Today on my sustainability project. She was a UNH alum and invited me to come speak. And I guess I did a good job because they invited me to go to a broader New England Asthma and Climate Change Summit where I'll be giving the same talk. So being able to spread the word has been, a great experience for me, not in terms of only professional development, but it really makes me feel like I'm able to bring this project to many different broad audiences and hopefully encourage them to convince their local government leaders to make similar changes and follow suit what Dover did. So like Jen said, my work with Dover actually also landed me an appointment on Dover's planning board as an alternate member, and that's been a really neat experience. I didn't know a ton about architectural designs or anything, but I have been able to really voice my opinion in terms of sustainable actions based on infrastructure and trying to encourage more renewables, especially solar installations on commercial buildings within Dover city limits. In terms of the program itself, I'll comment that it's run extremely well, and they just keep improving it every year based on the feedbacks that the fellows give. It really gave me some hope for our future, especially in the current political climate. So sometimes it can be a little bit bleak, but seeing so many people in my generation come together and work towards overall sustainable goals and make real differences throughout communities, and especially the New England area, gave me a lot of hope moving forward. And I'm so happy that there is a program like this. It's probably one of the only programs in the country that really pairs fellows so well with projects that are that they're well qualified for. And I hope that the program will only continue to grow. And I'm excited that there's so many of you from UNH that are interested in being a part of this. The program treats you really well as well. There's lots of educational opportunities, whether it's through the webinars or some workshops. For example, there was a storytelling workshop, which I think has really helped me with framing my presentations, especially in a less technical manner, because when you are presenting, you really are telling a story. So that was extremely useful. And furthermore, SI was able to, State Sustainability Institute was able to provide me with compensation to work in a field that I've always been really passionate about. I had this gap between when I graduated from chemical engineering before I was going to start graduate school here. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do that summer. And one of my good friends from my program, Jackie Kinson, who's also an alumni of the program, mentioned this opportunity to me. And when I saw that there was a project in Dover, I was just so incredibly excited that I had qualifications and was going to be able to use, the knowledge I learned from my chemistry degree to be on the ground and actually making a difference. In terms of applying for a fellowship, I'll make a few comments here because, it is competitive. They receive applications from even all over the world, especially across the United States. So be really open to moving away for the summer for one of these projects. You'll still have the opportunity to come back and connect with the other fellows at a couple occasions. But that will give you, an immersion and potentially a job offer in the future. I know some of the fellows did get job offers from my cohort based on the experiences they had. And I would say find the projects that you're best qualified for and try to really highlight the reasons why you have those qualifications and your previous experiences, that make you well suited for that project or those projects, I should say. And again, try to maybe come up with a plan of attack. If you do get the fellowship, you'll be given a really detailed work plan to follow over the summer, but thinking about it ahead of time and trying to, rationalize with yourself what you can bring to the table is only going to make your interview stronger and your application stronger. And lastly, express why you care about sustainability. Obviously, that's extremely important to the folks that are running this program and that are making this happen. So really try to make that known. And that's really the gist of what I had to share with you guys. Before I sign off here, I just want to say, I'm happy to answer any questions, but this program really does so much great work, and I'm very happy that UNH can be a leader in this field, and pairing students with these pretty incredible projects. So at this time, if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Jackson. Jen and I can talk about this program, but I think the few minutes that they get to hear from you, from somebody who actually went through the program, is so valuable. So I really appreciate you taking the time to connect with us today. While we have Jackson, if you guys, anybody has a question that you would like to ask an actual fellow, like what it was about, what it was all about to be part of the program and to do one of these fellowships, now is your chance. So please type your questions into the chat box if you have a question for Jackson. We're going to give them a second, Jackson, because I think people are finding the chat boxes and their microphones and things. Okay, so here's one for you, Jackson. Did you apply to multiple fellowships?
So in my case, I actually didn't. I only applied to the Dover Fellowship. The reason for that is I really wanted to focus intensely on that application because I felt it was the project I was most qualified for and fit best with in terms of my living situation at the time. But, they were looking for someone who had experience in chemical engineering or chemistry. And I had done lots of atmospheric research and had been exposed to quite a bit of data analysis. So I felt that the project in Dover was really the perfect fit for me. That being said, I would encourage you to broaden your horizons. You can apply to up to 3 of these fellowships. So it may be worth your time to apply to more than one if you feel that you kind of fit in multiple categories.
Great. And here's one more for you, Jackson. How did your project differ from your expectations when applying? It's a good question.
That is a very good question. So it differed in the sense that, I really wasn't sure exactly how it would go, in the office, for example, in the structure of things. I knew broadly what I was going to be doing, but, I hadn't had experience working with SciMap, for example, which is the Sustainability Indicator Management and Analysis Platform developed by the SI. So I wasn't sure exactly how that program would run, but I figured it out pretty quickly, and it was really cool. I also really wasn't sure what these data sets would look like that I was going to be getting from the financial office. So it was a lot of guessing in terms of what I would be doing based on calculations and such. But, bigger picture stuff, I knew I would have to be given presentations to city councilors, for example. So I kind of was able to prep for myself ahead of time for that. And at the end of the day, I knew I had to write a combined greenhouse gas inventory report. So, I was preparing in my mind well ahead of time that was the overarching goal that I needed to complete. I don't know if that answers that well, but.
That's great, Jackson. I'm going to throw one more at you if you have one more minute.
Sure.
And this is another good one. Are there any needed skills working in local government that you weren't exposed to in undergraduate research?
Yeah, I would say, well, it depends on, what faction of local government you're working in. But in my case, I would say the ability to present information in a non-technical manner becomes extremely important on a local government level when you're dealing with both members of the public and even city councilors who are all well educated, but they may not have the scientific background to really understand nitty-gritty details. So you kind of have to be able to break down some of the more technical stuff from your project and make it more tangible to different audiences. Also, I had no experience in planning before, so seeing architectural guidelines and learning about different zoning regulations and stuff was very cool. I don't think that was anything you could really prepare for as an undergrad unless you took some planning related class, but that was my experience.
But the point was you could learn on the job, right? Whatever you hadn't figured
absolutely.
out. And
Absolutely.
that's part of how this experience is designed. You have your academic knowledge and skills, but there are some things that are much better learned just by being there and being in the office.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jackson. I really appreciate you connecting with us today and sharing your experience with these guys. And I know that you have a ton to do, so I just want to say thanks again and feel free to log off. I know some of you didn't get your questions into Jackson. We will try to address those with you at the end, or we'll get in touch with Jackson and see if he can share some more with us.
Thanks, Jackson.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Jen and Megan. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Jackson. Okay, so we are going to circle back at the end and have some more time for general questions, and we'll try to hit some of the questions that didn't get through to Jackson at that time. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about the project setup for this coming year and a little bit about the application process. And again, then we'll open it up for your questions again. So every year we have an entirely new set of projects, some with people we've worked with in the past and, some with new mentors and new organizations. And every year we try to set up a portfolio of projects that really spans the gamut in terms of topics in sustainability. And the reason we do that is because one of the great benefits of being part of this fellowship program, as opposed to doing something like an internship at a specific organization, is that while you get to do a deep dive into your topic area in your organization, you're also exposed to what 14 other fellows are doing, working on different things in different places. And from what we hear from the fellows, that's a great part of this experience because you get a broad overview of a lot of different options within sustainability, all in the span of 10 weeks. So this summer, we have projects that cover a lot of these topic areas that you see on your screen, from renewable energy to food systems to greenhouse gas emissions to residential heating and public health. There are a lot of projects that might cover 2 or 3 of these topic areas at the same time. But the point is they're all different. They're all unique projects in different places. But they are also designed to be connected to other projects in different ways. So the goal is that you're learning about what everybody else is doing, but that you're also able to work with other fellows throughout the summer on your project, sharing information, sharing resources, providing support to one another. So as you go forward looking at which projects you want to apply for, obviously this is one of the things you want to consider if the topic area is something that you're really interested in. So there are also a lot of different project types. So we have projects that are really focused on research and data analysis, and that will involve, working in an office looking at numbers all day. So if you're the kind of person who does not want to look at a computer for 8 hours a day, these are probably not the projects for you. We also have a lot of projects that are focused on policy and planning and implementing new policies. We have projects that cross between research and policy, so doing research on policy options. So it's just a different type of project. And then lastly, we have a handful of projects that are really focused on outreach and engaging stakeholders and talking to people. So again, if you're the type of person who loves being out and talking to people all the time, these are the kind of projects that are going to be of most interest to you. Again, of the 15 projects, none of them will fit into one of these boxes necessarily. A lot of them cross between, research and policy, or between policy and outreach. But think about the type of project it is, the type of work that will be involved in doing that project, and if that's the kind of work that you enjoy. or the kind of work that you want to try out. Maybe it's not something you've done before and you want to get some experience in doing a different kind of work. So just another thing to consider as you're looking at what projects you'd like to apply for this summer. We also have projects that are located all throughout New England. So this year we have a couple projects up in Burlington, Vermont. We have 8 projects here in New Hampshire. 5 of them are located in the area of UNH, another few in the Upper Valley of New Hampshire. We have a few in the Boston area, and 1 in Connecticut and 1 in Rhode Island. So we also designed the portfolio of projects so that all fellows will have at least another fellow, if not a few fellows, somewhere nearby, because we think it's great if you're moving to a new place to kind of start out with a social network in place. So maybe that's really important to you if you're moving from across the country, that you'd like to start out knowing some people. So you might want to focus on one of these locations where there are at least a few fellows nearby. So in thinking about the projects you'd like to apply for, you can apply for up to 3 projects. You don't have to apply for 3. You can apply for 1 if one of them is like really obviously the one for you. That's okay. Please don't apply for more than 3 or we'll have a hard time processing your application. So here's some things to think about in deciding which projects to apply for. First is kind of a no-brainer. Is the subject area something that you're interested in? Second, as I talked about, is the type of work appealing to you? Is it something that you enjoy doing or something that you're interested in trying out? Perhaps you have particular skills you're trying to acquire to move you further along your career path. So as you dig into each of the project descriptions, there actually is a section in there that talks about what the fellow should get out of this experience. So read that carefully and think about if those are things that are going to help you move toward your goals. A lot of people come to this program hoping to get experience in a specific kind of organization like municipal government or state government or a nonprofit. So that's another thing to consider. Do you want to live in and work in an urban environment or a more rural environment? And there are logistics associated with that as well in terms of cost of living, transportation options. So all of these are valid things to consider when you're deciding which project to apply for. And lastly, as Jackson mentioned, this is a competitive program. So it's good advice to apply for the fellowships that you are really well qualified for. So this is really all about matching the fellow to the project in terms of not only your background and your skill set, but also your interests and your career goals. So look for the projects that really align well with what you've done and what you hope to do in the future. I always get a lot of questions about logistics in terms of travel and housing, so I'm just going to throw this information out there. If you have more questions at the end, that's totally fine. So fellows do receive a $6,500 stipend that is taxable, and it is paid in biweekly increments over the course of the summer. With that stipend, you are responsible for taking care of your own living expenses. So we don't provide housing. You're expected to use your stipend to pay for your own housing and to find your own housing. To the extent that we can, we'll help provide you with information. Obviously, it's easier for us to provide information on the New Hampshire locations, but also the mentors can jump in and help out with providing information on housing and public transit options in the areas where their projects are. So we do provide you information, and we do try to connect you with the other fellows that will be in your local area in advance so you can share information and potentially even think about sharing housing. But again, ultimately, it is the fellow's responsibility to take care of their own housing. Fellows are also responsible for getting to Durham in advance of orientation, getting to your project location before the first day of work, and getting home at the end of the summer. We do have a very small pot of money to help with people who are traveling from afar to get here just in order to do the fellowship. So if somebody's coming from California to do a fellowship in Massachusetts, we have a small amount of travel stipends that can be used to help with that. We do provide housing and meals during the program events that take place here in Durham. So during orientation, the midterm presentations, and the final presentations. And we can also help with getting to Durham if you're working at one of the faraway project sites like Burlington or Connecticut or something, and you have significant travel expenses to get back to Durham for those events. So those are most of the basic logistics. If you have more questions about that, I'm happy to answer them at the end. In terms of the application process, big news. Yesterday, we decided to extend the application deadline to February 10th. So hopefully that's good news. You'll have a few more days. So that will be Sunday night, February 10th at midnight, when applications are due. Anyone is eligible to apply to the program if you're a current or recent student. So there are no eligibility requirements beyond that for the program itself. As you dig into the specific project descriptions, you'll see that there are certain things that they're looking for each one of those projects. So that's where you want to look in terms of what they're looking for academic background and skill sets, but they're all different for the 15 different projects. In terms of applying, again, you can apply for up to 3 projects. If you're going to apply for more than one project, you should write a cover letter specific to each of those projects. And that's not because we're trying to create more work for you, but because we would like to give you the opportunity to show how your experience and your interests are a really good match for that project specifically. So take advantage of that opportunity. Don't do 3 copies of the same letter because, like I said, this really is about making a good match between the fellow and the project. We also asked for a writing sample, and that's just to give you a chance to show off your communication skills. It does not matter what the topic area of your writing sample is. So if you're applying for a carbon accounting project, don't feel like you have to find some paper that you've written about carbon accounting. That's not important at all. Really what's more important is that you submit something that's in a style that's appropriate for the type of work that you hope to be doing this summer. So if you're applying for a research project, go ahead and submit an academic or research-oriented piece of writing. If you're applying for a project that's more about public outreach, then it makes more sense to submit a writing sample that shows that you know how to communicate to sort of a general public audience. Writing sample is limited to 2 pages. If you're applying for more than one project and want to submit something in 2 different styles, it's fine to submit 2 different 1-page samples. And it's also fine to submit an excerpt of a longer piece. There are specific instructions on how to put together your application materials, how to name your files. I'm not going to talk you through this right now, but I just wanted to point out that these instructions are there on the website, and please follow them because that will give your application the best chance of being read by the appropriate people. We can come back to this if people have questions about it at the end. Important dates. So again, that February 7th deadline has been changed to February 10th. Interviews will be conducted during the month of March, and those interviews will take place virtually for everybody. So even if you're located nearby, we do all of the interviews via Zoom, which is what we're using right now. And it will be somebody from the UNH Sustainability Institute team, somebody from the host organization for the project, with each candidate. So we'll just have a conversation with each of you if you're considered for an interview. We hope to have fellowships offers out by early April to give everybody a chance to plan for their summer. I will say that is an ambitious goal, and we often have a few that are tied up later in April, but our goal is early April to let everybody know. Orientation is for 3 days at the end of May, and that's here in Durham. And then the fellowship term runs from June 3rd to August 16th. And if any of you are particularly detail-oriented, you may have noticed that that's actually an 11-week period. And the reason for that is that you have a week off within the fellowship term to use as you need it. So you're expected to complete your 10-week fellowship within the span of those 11 weeks. So you essentially have a week off built in. 2 important dates within the fellowship term are July 12th and August 9th, and those are when the midterm presentations and final presentations are held, again, here in Durham. So I just want to take a second to point out that orientation, the 10-week fellowship term, the midterm and final presentations are all really crucial parts of the program, and so they're required. So if you have significant schedule conflicts with any of those dates, I would ask you to think about, if you can't resolve those conflicts, to maybe think about applying next year, because we really don't make any exceptions in terms of your ability to attend all of those events. And the reason for that is that these are our best opportunities to tie you together with the other fellows. So while a significant part of this program is working on your project at your location, really a lot of the benefit that you'll get out of being part of this is your interaction with the other fellows and the other mentors and the other alumni and people involved in the UNH team. And all of that really comes together when we meet here in person in Durham. So hopefully you will all be able to attend all of those events. So that was a lot of details. And so with that, here's the list of projects that we have to offer for this summer. Hopefully you've been able to look a little bit into those on the website. If you haven't yet, you should just take note that there's a 2 or 3 page description of each of these fellowships on the website, so you can read about what the project's all about, what the goals are, what a fellow should get out of the experience of working on these projects, the kind of fellow that they're looking for to work on them. So I'd encourage you to go take some time digging through those project descriptions. And again, I'd encourage you to apply to 1 or 2 or 3 of them this summer. And we're really looking forward to seeing your applications. And with that, I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and welcome your questions, whether they're about the program in general, the application process, or specific projects. So I would ask that we try to take them in that order. So the questions that are more applicable to a wider range of people, we'll get those in first. So if you have any questions about the program in general, you can go ahead and start submitting them now, and we'll get to as many as we can. The questions that we're not able to answer today, we will try to answer via email. I think you all probably have my email address by now, but it's also written there on the screen, so you can feel free to send your questions to me by email. Jen, is there anything that you would like to add before we start answering questions?
No, I think we covered it. I just echo that we're looking forward to seeing your applications and working with many of you, hopefully, over the summer.
Okay, great. So I see we have some questions rolling in. And again, we'll get to as many of these as we can. Here's somebody asking about whether career changers are welcome to apply. I would say generally, yes. We get a lot of quote unquote non-traditional students in this program, which is fantastic. This is a great way to get experience in a new field. If you, whoever's sending that to me, if you want to send me an email with a little more information about, whether or not you're a current student or a recent student, we can have a specific conversation offline about your circumstances. But generally, yes, non-traditional students are more than welcome to apply. Here's a question about a writing sample. And yes, we'd like 1 writing sample. But you can also, so your writing sample generally is limited to 2 pages. If you'd like to submit 2 different styles, like I said before, you're welcome to submit, 2 one-page writing samples. But no, you don't need to submit a different writing sample for each project. Here is a question about whether the cover letters get sent independently or does the whole package get sent to each one. To be totally honest, the whole package usually goes to each organization. So they would have the opportunity to see your other letters. That said, these guys are super busy, and I don't know that they will take the time to read your letters to other people. But they're all very much aware that each of you are applying for, that you're eligible to apply for up to 3 fellowships, and that lots of people do that just to increase their chances. So no one would hold it against you for also, writing an impassioned letter to somebody else. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. International students, yes, you're more than welcome to apply. If you are selected for an interview and or actually selected to become one of the fellows, at that point we would put you in touch with our Office of International Scholars to make sure that you're eligible and all the paperwork is lined up. But at this point, you are more than welcome to apply. We've definitely had a lot of international students in this program, and we are very hopeful that we will be able to work out whatever paperwork would be required for you to participate. I'm going to go back up here, Jen, and look at some of the questions that we missed. But in the meantime, if there's anything you would like to add, feel free.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to make sure we hit those. I guess I just want to second that some of our most successful fellows and fellowship projects have been non-traditional students and international students, and that, again, that is one of our goals with the program, is to kind of mine the richness of a diverse cohort. And that's also, a feature of the alumni network, is we do have, now members of the alumni network who are working and living internationally and who are, second and third career professionals. So it's we would welcome all of those applications, and I think that all of the people will get a lot out of it. It's the goal for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm circling back to a couple of the questions that we didn't get to earlier. Somebody asked who is reviewing the applications and interviewing you. So we at UNH do a first round of reviewing the applications. We send the strongest applications to the host organization, and then we work with them to select 2 or 3 applicants to interview for each position. And as I said before, we interview together. So it would be somebody from UNH, somebody from the host organization interviewing each fellow. Let's see.
There was a question about networks.
Yeah. Do you want to respond to that one? The question was, do you get chances to network with other organizations around New England and the U.S.?
And the answer is you absolutely have opportunities. Again, we now have an alumni network of over 150 former fellows, many of whom are in the field in organizations, private and public sector organizations doing great work. We can connect you with them. Likewise, mentors from current and previous years, we can connect you with them. We can connect you with members of our own professional networks. So by and large, we don't kind of force those interactions. Obviously, your mentors also have professional networks, and they generally are very open to connecting folks. It does come down to the degree to which people are motivated to take advantage of that. Like I said, we don't kind of force that for the most part, but there's certainly opportunities if you're willing to, do the work of reaching out, sort of thinking about who we would want to talk to for what, and reaching out.
Jen, I'm sorry, I was reading a little bit while you were talking, but did you talk about NEMS at all?
No, I didn't. Thank you for the prompt. So one kind of key aspect of the program that we've been related to networks that we've been cultivating over the last few years is the Sustainability Institute is the kind of backbone or coordinating organization for this fantastic network called the New England Municipal Sustainability Network, which is a group of municipal employees who are their planners, their sustainability coordinators, their energy or climate or recycling folks. Their jobs are dealing with sustainability issues within local governments, and they formed a network to share resources and best practices. It's a regional network that is actually a part of a national network called the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And so we give you very direct ties to both of those networks because we are very involved in them. And in fact, that NEMS network, the New England network, meets twice a year, and their annual meeting in the spring is always organized and designed to overlap with our fellows orientation. And as part of the fellows orientation, you will get to be part of some aspect of that meeting to sort of sit in and see how municipal sustainability folks are approaching their work and sort of learning from each other. So it's a really critical aspect of the program overall and a high priority for us to help you make those connections. And actually, I apologize, but I have to jump off now for another meeting, so I'm going to just take this opportunity to thank you all again for being here and to say goodbye, and I hope to get a chance to meet and talk with you all soon. So I'll turn it over to you, Megan. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jen. See you later. So, hey, everybody, this is Megan, and I am still here. I know officially the webinar is supposed to stop in 5 minutes, but I'm willing to hang around for another, 10 minutes after that. So I'll just try to hit some more of these questions as we go through. So somebody asked Jackson if it was a rigid workload or was there room for you to offer ideas, propose opportunities to develop skills not previously disclosed. Absolutely, these fellowships are designed and the mentors are wholeheartedly on board with the idea that this should be a great learning experience for you as fellows. And so while you're expected to be primarily focused on your project, there is lots of opportunity to go to meetings and to, talk to people working in your organization, just to get to learn as much as you can while you are there. And I wish Jackson had a minute to actually answer this question because he actually got involved in a couple of little side projects while he was there and wrote some little mini reports that had nothing to do with his primary project. But A, they were really useful for the city. And B, he got to dive into a different topic area, learn something, and learn about something new at the same time. So yes, the fellowships are designed to allow for that. At the same time, we try to be careful to make sure you can remain focused enough on your project to be able to complete it to the extent that you feel good about it and that the organization you're working for, gets the product that they're looking for. But we do design the projects to leave some room for exploring other areas. Let's see. So here's a question. If we're applying to multiple projects, should we submit, oops, sorry about that. Should we submit separate application packages for each? And should we use the project keyword for our first choice? So if you go in and read here, I'll flip back to this. Here we go. Okay, flip back to this page. So if you're applying for more than one project, you're going to put everything together in one package. So if you look under the content in order bullet here, you're going to put your 1, 2, or 3 cover letters all in order. Put the one you're most interested in first, second, third, and so on. Put your resume after that. Put your list of references with their contact info after that, and put your writing sample at the end. You're going to put all that together into one PDF, and you're going to name the PDF with your last name, your first name, and the keyword for each project that you're interested in. So if your name is Jane Doe and you're interested in, let's say a carbon project and a waste project, it's going to say Doe_Jane_carbon_waste. Hopefully that's clear. If you go in and look at the instructions online, that should be detailed there. And if you're still wondering, feel free to get in touch with me. Let's see what else. How competitive are the fellowships? Great question. So we get anywhere from 100 to over 400 applications every year for anywhere from 8 to 25 fellowships each year. So that gives you an idea. We will never know how many applications we're going to get this year until the closing moment of the deadline. There are often applications just flying in at the very last minute. But it's highly competitive. And I say that not to scare you. You should definitely apply because this program is not about test scores. It's not about transcripts. It's really about making a great match between an applicant and a project and a host organization. So it is competitive, but that's to say it's very prestigious. If you're awarded one of these fellowships, you should be very proud of it. But at the same time, you should not be afraid to apply. So please send us your applications, and we will be in touch. Let's see. What are 2 or 3 things that really make an application stand out from the others? Another great question. I feel like I'm getting a little bit repetitive about this, but it's very much about your thoughtfulness and being able to make a connection between your background, being your experience, your skills, your academic training, the jobs that you've had, and your interests, all tying that to the project and how, you are the best person to be able to tackle that project, and also how that project will, be a career changer for you. So just do your best at making that case that it's a good match in both directions between you and the project. So I'd say that's my best advice. Also make sure your cover letter is really well written, proofread it, because while you're submitting a writing sample, your cover letter is also certainly considered as another writing sample. So that's my advice on applications. I'd like to request that my references only be contacted if I am selected for an interview. Yes, that's totally understandable. We actually do not contact any references until we get to the interview stage, usually almost always after we have spoken to you. So I would not worry about your references being called in advance of us talking to you. You're certainly welcome to write that right on your references page if that's really important to you. But I also, I have never called a reference until I've spoken to the candidate, usually more than once. So that's just our process. Are applications reviewed as they come in, or do you review them all after the deadline? We will wait until the deadline, which is 10 days from now. And then what we do is kind of organize all of the applications for each project and then go through them together. So we're not interviewing, we're not reviewing applications yet, and we will wait until the deadline. Can you provide some advice for who to select as references? I would say people who know you best, people who can speak to your ability, not so much, like I wouldn't worry about technical abilities so much, but people who can speak to your your soft skills, your ability to communicate, your ability to synthesize information, your ability to work independently and make a project your own, your ability to make use of resources, that kind of thing. So, the people who definitely know you best and will speak to those kind of abilities. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Can we apply for multiple projects? Yeah, so this person joined late, and yes, you can apply for up to 3 projects. You don't have to apply for 3, so you can apply to 1, 2, or 3 projects. Please don't apply for more than 3. And to the person who joined late, if you have further questions, first of all, I'm going to put a recording of this webinar on the website, so you're welcome to review it afterwards, and then please feel free to get in touch if any of your questions were not answered. Someone's asking if we're able to reach out to project sponsors to gain more information about the program. I would say at this point, I would not do that before applying. If you are selected, on the short list or selected for an interview, you'll get to be in touch with those people. So at this point, I would hold off on doing that at this stage. And I think that we are getting to the end of the questions. I think, we're after 1 o'clock now. So what I'm going to do is, if I missed your question somehow, because they're kind of flying by me here, I apologize, and I would invite you to please send your question to me via email, and I would be happy to answer it. But I just want to thank you all again for joining me here today, and for your interest in being involved in this program and doing great work in sustainability. And I look forward to reading your applications and hopefully speaking to some of you in the next couple months. So thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we will talk to you soon. Okay, take care.